Varna, can you explain more about the detachment you were talking about?
Yes.
So when you say to detach from the negativity that is coming, is it that's like observing or witnessing it as a subject, looking at like Shiva watching Shakti, kind of a relationship?
The tendency is, the habitual tendency is to always to experience something, there is an emotion and you stick to that emotion. The situation is already past, but then we still are hooked into those situations emotionally and feed our life energy into a situation that is just a memory, give it a reality that it doesn't deserve. There's only one point you are touching reality, that is now. All else is in the mind. And the detachment means that you become aware how you are hooked on stuff that has passed, that you think about, emotions that you turn around and think about it and turn around and make them bigger and bigger and bigger, totally out of proportions. And detachment means that you don't do that anymore. It's not that after that there are no emotions. Emotions are an aspect of the human experience and enrich the human experience. But if they are in their place, they are like waves. They come, they are there, they go, they do no harm. But somehow we learned to always grab them, positive or negative. Either we want to keep them because we like them, or we don't want them because we don't like them. And in both ways, we're feeding them. These emotions are attached to the emotions and what has happened, and get them completely out of proportion. Detachment is learning to see that process and not do that anymore.
So when you were talking about processing the past,
Yes.
because I have many experiences in my past that I was hooked
Yes.
emotionally, energetically.
Yes.
And so even if right now I can come back into my presence,
Yeah.
my presence and my peace, there's still things hidden in my body and my energy system from my past, right? So how do we process the past?
You just let come what comes by itself, and as it comes, you deal with it. Don't go and look for it and go searching. Is there something more I have to process? Yes, there is no end to it.
So you mean like let it be triggered naturally?
Yes.
Let Adonai trigger it?
Yes. Be here, be now, be at ease, be at peace. Joyously. And then those things you need to look at, they come all by themselves. Don't you worry. But it's not that you have to go through every damn little detail that has ever happened and somehow process it in your computer. But there are so many things hanging together. And if something strong suddenly comes up, and if you can, you just drop it. But if it comes insistent up, then you surrender to the fact, okay, you are with that for some time. Let it come, let the emotions come, let the memories come, but see what it is doing to you now, to your experience now. Observe what it is doing to you physically, energetically, and learn to relax. And in that relaxation, the energy that is hooked into it starts to evaporate. Then the same thing may come, and then after some time you can let it go, but it is not done with. It may come the next day again, another time, and it may come repeatedly, but if you deal with it in such a observative, detached way, then what has been there as a weight that you have been carrying along is getting lighter and lighter, and eventually it's just a memory that has no more power over you. A memory of which you are wiser for. Nothing wrong with the memories. What is wrong is that we are emotionally hooked into the memories and let them push us around in the present out of old patterns that we acquired, and we don't want them anymore, but still they are there and have power because we don't let the energy escape from that. It's still there and boiling, and we have, as long as we are not conscious of it, we have the tendency to make them stronger and stronger. And when you are becoming conscious and such stuff comes up, and even if at times it overwhelms you, but then eventually you catch yourself again and you step a step back and watch it and learn to relax, and instead of somehow fighting it or again suppressing it, then no matter how strong stuff is there that comes from the past, with patience, with perseverance, it all can be released. And naturally you feel lighter and lighter.
Is there any value to, like, for example, if I'm able to observe certain patterns and
Yes.
reactive tendencies,
Yeah,
like when I'm uncomfortable, I tend to leave the room or run away,
yeah,
as an example, right? It's so automatic.
yeah,
The identification with the emotion and the action, the reactive action, can be so automatic that I don't realize until after that that it even happened.
yeah.
So is there any value to be more intentional observing the patterns of the mind and maybe keep a journal or something like that?
If it helps you, you can keep a journal. But then, what you described, like the incident happened and then later you become aware. And when you become aware, then you just drop it, or you still turn it in the mind. I'm asking.
Oh, well, ideally I can learn to let it go and let it dissolve.
Yeah,
I don't want to hold on to it,
right.
but I tend to get frustrated that it came up
Yeah.
at all, and then it makes it much worse.
Right. And then you are again in an emotional fight about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then at that moment you just see, okay, got me again, but now you let it go. Stop fighting with it, stop making a fuss about it, okay? Now I see it, I come back in the present and relax. And if you treat it like this, you will catch yourself earlier and earlier, and eventually in the situation itself, you see the old habit coming as a tendency, and then eventually you have the freedom that you can decide, am I now following that tendency or not? Because sometimes you still may, as in your example, think it's better that I go. But you won't be compelled to push you won't be pushed unconsciously out of situation or for which after that you think I would rather should better have stayed there. This is with patterns. Even when we decide, when we recognize a pattern and decide, I'm not going to react like this anymore, I'm not going to be pushed by the old pattern in a certain way, then after that the situation comes and out of habit, there we go again. I'm not going to be angry. Then somebody comes, there, we explode. But then, what usually happens if that just goes on and on and on, then it stays always in the mind. After it has happened, one still churns it around and one broods over it and what the fellow said to me, and keep up the emotion and strengthening the tendency to react in a certain way. But then when you decide not to do that anymore, even if it gets you, but after that eventually you become aware, still I'm holding on, I'm doing it, and there you can let go. not more holding on to the thing, I'm right, they are wrong, I'm right, they are wrong. But just see, oh, there I'm doing it, it doesn't matter whether I was right or wrong. It's simply what's matter, I'm wasting my precious, beautiful life force for nonsense. It goes down the drain. Like when you are angry, you puff a bit energy out in space. But usually the draining part is what is happening after that. We turn it around and brood about. It really eats up the life force. And there, if you can catch yourself earlier, then gradually you are more conscious and eventually you catch yourself in the act before it happens. And then you decide whether you want to be angry or not. And don't make a fuss about it. Stop taking this whole damn story so serious.
So when we detach the negative thoughts and the pure mind that you still have, that Amma still has, that Ramana had, like the pure mind that remains after all the vasanas have gone, that mind will naturally stay, and the negative, all you see what I'm saying, like how to distinguish between the mind that is pure and the impurities.
There's not really such a thing like a mind. There's just that capacity to form consciousness into reasonable thoughts. And it's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it. What is wrong is that it should be an instrument that we use where it's appropriate and then drop where it's not appropriate. And somehow something went wrong that we have learned to think all the time, and it becomes such a compulsion that we can never stop. It just goes on and ramba, ramba, ramba. As long as you're thinking, we are talking about the mind. So when we say it's in the mind, then it's because we think about it. But there is not such a thing as a mind, and there is an impure mind and a pure mind, and you should eventually reach the pure mind. It's just that compulsion of thinking over and over and over things you can learn to detach from that. But then still you will be capable of having thoughts. But if the thoughts are not always hooked emotionally into some stuff in the past, in some expectation in the future, but simply are valid in the situation, then you can call it a pure mind. But it's not a mind.
I think the reason I'm asking is because a lot of times people will even detach from the emotions.
Yeah.
They'll throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know this expression?
Yeah.
In English, yeah. Like, okay, like Ramana says, destroy the mind. I'm just gonna not feel anything. I'm not gonna have any thoughts, and then spiritually bypass, life. And so, like, how to make sure that we're still living and still allowing ourselves to have emotions without, but like also being able to know when we can let go of them.
As long as you are appearing in a human form in this world, there will be emotions and there will be thoughts. You can focus on them or not focus on them, but they will be there. It's not that Ramana didn't have any emotions. Simply, he didn't express much.
I think some of the language they used made it sound like he was just like his brain was empty all day.
His brain was empty all day. Sometimes people were doing things, and there are those people who describing what was happening, and visibly he was reacting to them with controlled anger. He didn't leash out at them, but there was that emotion there, and he was sending it to people sometimes. It's not that we have to somehow try to stamp all that out. This is an expression of the self. But we should not be, it should not be the boss, we should not be slaves of it. Ramana was asked, but are you still thinking? He said, usually I'm not having thoughts. And then the person said, but I see you talking to people. Then you have to think something. And then he said, yes, of course. When I'm talking to people, then I'm thinking. But usually I'm not having thoughts. And then the person said, but then I see you reading. When you read, you must have some thoughts. They said, yes, of course, when I'm reading, then I'm having thoughts. But usually I'm not having thoughts.
So that's his unique expression.
Yes. I mean, to be so totally absorbed like Ramana, there are not so many Ramanas walking around. But you can come to the point that you are not more attached to thoughts, that you are not compelled, that they just go on and you say, stop! And they still go on. And you say, stop! And they still go on. But you see, okay, thought enough about it, and you drop it. And don't hold on to. And then they stop being enemies you have to fight against. Don't be afraid of spiritual bypassing. Just be natural, relaxed, in the present. And then when you see that you try to suppress stuff, there you cannot do that. Because if you suppress stuff, then it's just postponing. Then emotions or memory, something that is unpleasant, and you try to push it in the subconscious, then if we succeed with doing that, then we're just postponing the thing, and eventually it's there nagging, eventually it has to come up and we have to deal with it. But if you can be at ease, at peace, relaxed, in the now, don't think that you are doing any spiritual bypassing of your emotional stuff. That which needs to be looked at will come up. And sometimes when you work on something that comes up very strongly, there is a whole field connected to it, and the whole field may go, and you need not go into every detail of it. If you start to dig and dig and dig and dig, then you never stop. It's a jungle that with no end. But that which is strongly troubling will come up and trouble you, sooner or later. You cannot bypass it. You can try to suppress it again, but then when you become aware that you're doing it, then you just don't do that. And accept, okay, I have to deal with it. But otherwise, then don't be afraid. Detached doesn't mean after that you are a stone. You are very much alive. Actually, you are much more alive, because you are not always wasting your time being busy with the past and the future. But that beautiful life force is here now to experience the present. Bubbling, beautiful, and you can express your creativity, and maybe you are very active in it. And do things, or you can be aware of that creative energy without doing much. Like Ramana didn't do much, he was just sitting there. He talked a bit to people, but there was that intensity flowing out of him, because he just sat there for years and years and years, doing nothing, but not being busy with the past and the future. And became such a powerhouse that even now, 70 years after he passed away, he's a source of inspiration for people all over the world.